The termination letter cited 3 client complaints filed in September. I had been on medical leave the entire month. My name is Bridget. I worked as an independent contractor for a management consulting firm in Brisbane. The firm employed 200 consultants across the Asia-Pacific region. I had been with them for 4 years, specializing in supply chain optimization for retail clients. 6 days ago, I received an overnight courier package at my home. Inside was a formal notice of contract termination. The letter was from our regional director, a man named Graham Porter. It was dated October 12th. The first paragraph stated that my contract was being terminated effective immediately due to documented client dissatisfaction and repeated performance failures. The second paragraph referenced 3 formal complaints submitted by Bennett Retail Group, one of my long-term clients. The complaints were allegedly filed on September 8th, September 15th, and September 22nd. The third paragraph stated that I had been given opportunities to improve, but had failed to meet expectations. The letter was signed by Graham and countersigned by HR. I read it twice. Then I opened my medical leave documentation. I had been on approved medical leave from August 28th through September 30th. 5 weeks. Full disability coverage, authorized by the firm's HR department. During that time, I had not accessed client systems. I had not sent emails. I had not attended meetings. I had not performed any work. The complaints were dated during a period when I was not working. I pulled out my contract. I had signed it 18 months ago when the firm had transitioned several employees to contractor status. The contract included a termination clause. Either party may terminate this agreement with 30 days written notice or immediately for cause. Cause is defined as gross misconduct, breach of confidentiality, or documented performance failures verified by the client in writing. I highlighted that last phrase. Verified by the client in writing. Then I opened my email archives. I searched for any messages from Bennett Retail Group during September. There were none. I searched for messages from Graham during September. There was one, sent September 4th while I was on leave. Subject line, Bennett account, temporary coverage. Body, Bridget, hope you're recovering well. I've assigned Marcus to cover Bennett while you're out. He'll handle their Q3 strategy review. See you when you're back. Marcus was another contractor. He had been with the firm for 8 months. I saved the email. Then I did something I had not done in 4 years. I called Bennett Retail Group directly. Their main office number was saved in my phone from years of working together. I had never called it from home before. I had always used the firm's systems. I dialed at 10:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. The receptionist answered on the second ring. Bennett Retail Group, how may I direct your call? Sandra Wilson, please. This is Bridget from Meridian Consulting. One moment. The line transferred. 3 rings. Sandra Wilson. Sandra, it's Bridget. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. Bridget, no, not at all. How are you feeling? Marcus said you'd been unwell. I'm better, thank you. I'm actually calling about something work-related. Do you have a few minutes? Of course. What's going on? I chose my words carefully. I received a notice from my firm saying that Bennett submitted several complaints about my work in September. I wanted to follow up directly to understand the concerns so I can address them. There was a pause. Complaints? What complaints? According to the notice, 3 formal complaints were filed, September 8th, 15th, and 22nd, performance-related issues. Bridget, we didn't file any complaints. We didn't even work with you in September. You were on leave. That's what I thought, but the termination letter specifically references documented complaints from Bennett. Termination? They terminated you? Yes, the letter says it's based on client dissatisfaction. Sandra's tone shifted. That's absurd. We've been thrilled with your work. You're the reason we renewed our contract last quarter. Who told you we complained? The regional director, Graham Porter. I've never spoken to anyone named Graham Porter. I said nothing for a moment. Sandra, would you be willing to provide that in writing? A simple email confirming that Bennett has not filed any complaints about my work? Absolutely. I'll send it right now. This is ridiculous. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bridget, I mean this. We specifically requested you for our Q4 project. We want you back as soon as this is sorted out. I'll keep you updated. Please do. I hung up. I sat at my kitchen table. The morning light was coming through the window. I could hear traffic from the street below. I did not feel angry. Not yet. I felt methodical. 10 minutes later, an email arrived from Sandra. Subject line: Re-performance documentation. Body: Bridget, to confirm our conversation, Bennett Retail Group has not filed any complaints regarding your consulting work. We have been consistently satisfied with your performance and professionalism. We requested your assignment for our upcoming Q4 supply chain review and hope to continue working with you. Please let me know if you need any additional documentation. Sandra Wilson, VP of Operations, Bennett Retail Group. I read the email 3 times. Then I created a new folder on my desktop. I labeled it Termination, Evidence. I saved Sandra's email. I saved the termination letter. I saved my medical leave approval documents. I saved Graham's September 4th email assigning Marcus to cover my work. I saved my contract with the highlighted termination clause. Then I opened a spreadsheet. I created a timeline. August 28th, medical leave begins. September 4th, Graham assigns Marcus to Bennett account. September 8th, alleged first complaint. I am on medical leave. September 15th, alleged second complaint. I am on medical leave. September 22nd, alleged third complaint. I am on medical leave. September 30, medical leave ends. October 12th, termination letter sent. October 18th, I call Sandra, confirm no complaints exist. I saved the timeline. Then I sat back and thought. Graham had not made a simple mistake. He had fabricated 3 specific complaint dates. He had put them in writing. He had signed the termination letter. Either he had invented the complaints himself, or someone else had given him false information. Either way, the contract had been violated. I opened a new browser tab. I searched for employment lawyers in Brisbane who specialized in contractor disputes. I found 5 firms with strong reviews. I made a list. The first firm was Milton Partners. I called their office. The receptionist answered. Milton Partners, how may I help you? I'd like to speak with someone about a contractor termination dispute. Let me transfer you to our employment law department. The line transferred. A woman answered. Catherine Mills speaking. Ms. Mills, my name is Bridget Chen. I'm an independent contractor who was terminated based on what I believe are false client complaints. I'd like to discuss my options. I see. Can you tell me more about the circumstances? I walked her through the timeline, the medical leave, the September complaint dates, the lack of client verification, Sandra's email. Catherine listened without interrupting. When I finished, she spoke. Do you have a copy of your contract? Yes. And you have written confirmation from the client that they did not file complaints? Yes, I received it this morning. Can you send both documents to my office? I'll review them and call you back this afternoon. What's your email? She gave it to me. I wrote it down. I should mention, Catherine said, that my initial consultation is free, but if we move forward, I work on contingency for cases like this, 25% of any settlement or award. Does that work for you? Yes. Good. Send me the documents and I'll be in touch. I thanked her and hung up. I scanned the contract and the termination letter. I forwarded Sandra's email. I attached the timeline spreadsheet. I sent everything to Catherine's office at 11:45 a.m. Then I made lunch. I ate slowly. I tried not to think about the termination. Instead, I thought about what came next. If the contract had been violated, I had legal recourse. If Catherine agreed to take the case, the firm would have to respond. They could settle. They could fight. They could reinstate me. I did not know which option I wanted. I finished lunch. I washed the dishes. I sat on my couch and waited. Catherine called me back at 3:20 p.m. Bridget, I've reviewed your materials. You have a very strong case. For what? Wrongful termination, breach of contract. Your agreement requires documented client verification for termination based on performance. The firm terminated you based on complaints that provably don't exist, filed during a period when you were on protected medical leave. What are my options? You can file a breach of contract claim in civil court. You're entitled to either reinstatement or damages. The damages would include the 30-day notice period they didn't provide, plus compensation for loss of work and potential reputational harm. What would that process look like? I would start by sending a formal demand letter to the firm. The letter outlines the contract violation and demands either immediate reinstatement with back pay or a settlement payment. I give them a deadline to respond, usually 10 business days. And if they don't respond? Then we file in court. But most firms settle these cases before it gets that far. Litigation is expensive and public. They usually prefer to resolve quietly. How long does the process typically take? It varies. If they settle quickly, a few weeks. If they fight, it could be months. What do you think they'll do? Catherine paused. Based on what you've told me, they made a serious mistake. Fabricating complaints during protected leave is legally problematic. They'll likely want to settle, but I can't guarantee anything. What's your success rate with cases like this? I've handled about 30 contractor disputes in the past 5 years. 24 settled. 4 went to court. 2 are still pending. I've never lost a case that had documentation as strong as yours. That reassured me slightly. I'd like to move forward, I said. Good. I'll draft the demand letter today. I should have it ready for your review by tomorrow morning. Once you approve it, I'll send it to the firm via registered mail and email. Who will you send it to? The regional director who signed your termination and the firm's general counsel. That ensures it reaches both operational and legal decision makers. Okay. One more thing, Bridget. From this point forward, don't contact anyone at the firm. Don't respond to emails. Don't answer phone calls. Don't try to negotiate directly. All communication goes through me. Understood? Understood. If anyone from the firm contacts you, forward it to me immediately. Don't engage. I won't. Good. I'll send you the draft letter tomorrow. We hung up. I sat at my kitchen table for a while. The afternoon sun was coming through the window at a sharp angle. I could see dust particles floating in the light. I thought about Graham, about the termination letter, about the complaints that never existed. I wondered if he knew I had already checked with the client. I wondered if he cared. The next morning, Catherine emailed me a draft of the demand letter. It arrived at 9:15 a.m. I opened the attachment. The letter was 3 pages long, printed on official law firm letterhead. Formal, direct, professional. 2. Graham Porter, Regional Director, Meridian Consulting Group. CC. Patricia Brennan, General Counsel, Meridian Consulting Group. Re. Wrongful termination of Bridget Chen. Breach of contract. The first section outlined the facts with clinical precision. Ms. Chen was engaged as an independent contractor under a written agreement dated April 15, 2022. The agreement included specific termination provisions, requiring either 30 days written notice or immediate termination for cause, defined as documented performance failures verified by the client in writing. On October 12, 2024, Ms. Chen received a termination notice, citing 3 client complaints allegedly filed by Bennett Retail Group on September 15th and 22nd, 2024. However, Ms. Chen was on approved medical leave from August 28th through September 30th, 2024, during which time she performed no work and had no client contact. Written confirmation from Bennett Retail Group, dated October 18th, 2024, states that no complaints were filed and that the client specifically requested Ms. Chen's continued assignment. The second section outlined the legal violations. The termination violated Section 7.2 of the consulting agreement by failing to provide documented client verification of performance failures. The termination violated employment protection laws by occurring during a period of protected medical leave. The termination caused reputational and financial harm to Ms. Chen through false statements about her professional performance. The third section outlined the demands. Demand for resolution. Option 1. Immediate reinstatement to all previous contract terms, with back payment for all lost work from October 12, 2024 to date of reinstatement, plus written correction of personnel records. Option 2. Settlement payment, equivalent to 6 months of contracted fees, calculated at $22,400 per month, equals $134,400 total, plus compensation for reputational harm, $20,000, plus provision of neutral reference letter. Deadline. The firm has 10 business days from receipt of this letter to respond with acceptance of Option 1 or a counteroffer on Option 2. Failure to respond will result in filing of formal legal action in Queensland Civil Court. The letter was signed by Catherine Mills, with her bar credentials and contact information. I read it 3 times. It was perfect. Clear, factual, no emotion, no threats, just the legal reality of what had happened and what I was entitled to. I replied to Catherine, "Approved. Please send." She responded within minutes. Sending now via registered mail and email. You should see delivery confirmation by end of day. I'll let you know when they respond. At 4:30 that afternoon, I received a notification that the registered mail had been signed for at Meridian's Sydney head office. The email had been delivered to both Graham Porter and Patricia Brennan at 3:47 p.m. Then I waited. The first day passed with no response. The second day, nothing. On the third day, I received a voicemail on my mobile phone. The call had come in at 9:20 a.m. I had been in the shower and missed it. The voicemail was from Graham. His voice was calm, professional, almost friendly. "Bridget, it's Graham Porter. I received a letter from your attorney yesterday. I think there's been a significant misunderstanding here. I'd really appreciate it if you could give me a call so we can discuss this directly. I'm sure we can work something out without involving lawyers and making this more complicated than it needs to be. My direct line is..." I stopped the voicemail. I did not write down his number. I forwarded the voicemail to Catherine's email. She replied 20 minutes later. "Perfect. This is exactly what I expected. He's trying to bypass me and negotiate with you directly. Don't engage. Delete any future messages from him and forward them to me. This actually strengthens our position. It shows they're concerned." I deleted the voicemail. On the 4th day, Graham called again. This time I saw the call coming and let it go to voicemail. "Bridget, it's Graham again. I really think we should talk about this. The letter your lawyer sent contains some factual errors that I'd like to clarify. I understand you might be upset, but I think if we just have a conversation, we can resolve this much more easily. Please call me back. I forwarded it to Catherine without listening to the full message. She replied, "He's getting nervous. Good. Continue ignoring." On the 5th day, nothing. On the 6th day, I received an email. Not from Graham. From Patricia Brennan, the General Counsel. Subject line: Re-demand letter, Bridget Chen. I opened it carefully. Body: Ms. Chen, we are in receipt of the letter from your legal representative, Ms. Catherine Mills. We are reviewing the matter internally and will respond within the timeframe specified in the demand letter. Please direct all future communication through our legal office rather than operational staff. Patricia Brennan, General Counsel, Meridian Consulting Group. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to Catherine. She called me 10 minutes later. "This is good news," she said. "How is that good news? They didn't accept anything." "They didn't reject anything either. This is a holding pattern. It means they're taking the claim seriously. They're reviewing internally, probably talking to Graham, checking records, consulting with their insurance provider." Insurance provider? Most consulting firms carry errors and omissions insurance. Wrongful termination claims often fall under those policies. They'll want to know if the insurer will cover a settlement. How long will that take? Usually a week, sometimes 2. We're only on day 6. They have 4 more business days before the deadline. And if they don't respond by then we file in court. But I don't think it will come to that. She was right. On the 8th day, I received another email from Patricia. Subject line: Settlement discussion. Body: Ms. Mills, we would like to schedule a call to discuss a potential resolution to this matter. Are you available this week? We'd prefer to handle this amicably if possible. Please let me know your availability. Patricia Brennan. I forwarded it to Catherine immediately. She called me that afternoon. "They want to settle," she said. "How do you know?" "The language, potential resolution, handle this amicably. That's settlement talk. They've reviewed the case and decided fighting isn't worth it." What happens now? I schedule a call with Patricia. We negotiate terms. This is where my job really starts. Will I be on the call? No, it's better if I handle it directly. Lawyers negotiate better without clients listening. Emotions don't get involved. But I'll call you immediately after to discuss any offers. What do you think they'll offer? Catherine paused. Hard to say. They'll probably start by offering reinstatement, hoping you'll decline. Then they'll offer a cash settlement, probably lower than what we asked for. I'll counter. We'll negotiate back and forth until we reach a number that works. What number should I be hoping for? Realistically, 4 to 5 months fees plus a reference letter. That's a solid outcome for a case like this. And the reputational damages? That's harder to prove. They might bundle it into the overall settlement rather than itemize it separately. We'll see. Okay. Are you open to reinstatement, or do you want to move on? I thought about that. I don't want to go back, I said. I want to be paid what I'm owed and move on. That makes negotiation easier. I can focus purely on the financial settlement. Good. Catherine scheduled the call with Patricia for 2 days later, Thursday at 2 p.m. I tried not to think about it. I went for walks. I cleaned my apartment. I organized my files. I did everything except think about the negotiation. Thursday afternoon arrived. At 1:55 p.m., I sat on my couch with my phone next to me. Catherine had said the call would probably last 30 to 45 minutes. She would contact me immediately after. 2 p.m. came and went. 2:30. 3 p.m. At 3:40, my phone rang. Catherine. I answered on the first ring. How did it go? Better than expected, she said. They opened with an offer of reinstatement plus 2 months back pay. What did you say? I said you're not interested in returning to a firm that terminated you based on fabricated complaints. I said we're only discussing cash settlements. And? They countered with 3 months' fees. No admission of wrongdoing, standard confidentiality clause. That's low. I know, I told them that. I countered with the full 6 months, plus reputational damages, plus a neutral reference letter, plus a correction to your personnel file. What did they say? Patricia said she'd need to discuss with her team. She asked if you'd accept 4 months as a compromise. 4 months is $90,000. Approximately, yes. I thought about it. 4 months would cover my expenses while I looked for new work. It would give me a cushion. It wouldn't be everything I'd asked for, but it would be fair. What do you think I should do? I asked. I think you should wait, Catherine said. I told Patricia that 4 months wasn't acceptable and that we're prepared to file if necessary. I gave her until Monday to come back with a better offer. You think they'll go higher? I do. They're negotiating. They started low, I pushed back. They'll come back somewhere in the middle. My guess is they'll offer 4.5 or 5 months. And if they don't? Then we decide if 4 months is acceptable, or if we file. Okay. Try not to worry about it. You're in a strong position. They know they screwed up. We hung up. I sat on my couch for a long time. The afternoon light was fading. I could see the Brisbane River from my apartment window. The water looked calm. I thought about the timeline. 3 weeks ago, I had received a termination letter. 2 weeks ago, I had called Sandra and learned the complaints didn't exist. 10 days ago, I had hired Catherine. Now I was waiting to see if the firm would pay me $90,000 or more to go away quietly. It felt surreal, but it also felt correct. I had not yelled. I had not confronted anyone. I had not made threats. I had simply documented what happened and enforced the contract. And now the system was working exactly as it should. Friday passed with no word from Patricia. Saturday and Sunday, nothing. Monday morning, I woke up early. I made coffee. I sat at my kitchen table and waited. At 10:30 a.m., Catherine called. They came back with a new offer. What is it? 5 months fees, neutral reference letter, mutual non-disparagement clause, confidentiality agreement, no admission of wrongdoing. I did the math quickly. 5 months at $22,400 per month. $112,000. What do you think? I asked. I think it's a good offer. It's reasonable compensation for the contract breach. It's close to what we asked for, and it gets you out cleanly without a prolonged legal fight. Could we get more if we pushed? Maybe. We could counter with 5.5 or 6, but that might drag things out for another week or two. And there's a risk they pull the offer and we end up in court. What would you recommend? Catherine paused. If you were my sister, I'd tell you to take it. It's a fair settlement. It compensates you for the violation, and it lets you move forward without burning months in litigation. I thought about it. $112,000 was more than I would have earned in 5 months anyway, because contractors don't get paid during gaps between projects. It was enough to live on for 6 months or more while I figured out what came next. And it came with a reference letter that would protect my reputation. "I'll take it," I said. "You're sure?" "Yes." "Okay. I'll send confirmation to Patricia today. We'll draft the settlement agreement. That usually takes about a week. I'll review it carefully before you sign anything." "Thank you, Catherine." "You're welcome. You made this easy by documenting everything. Most of my clients don't have the kind of evidence you brought me." We hung up. I sat at my kitchen table. $112,000. I had been angry when I received the termination letter 3 weeks ago. Now I felt calm. The settlement was not about revenge. It was about enforcement. Graham had violated the contract. The firm was paying the consequence. That was all. The following week passed slowly. I checked my email constantly, waiting for the settlement agreement. On Thursday, 6 days after I accepted the offer, it arrived. Catherine sent it with a cover email. "Please read this carefully. Don't sign anything yet. Call me after you've reviewed it and we'll discuss." I opened the PDF. The settlement agreement was 14 pages long. Dense legal language. Sections and subsections, definitions and clauses. I read every word. Confidential settlement agreement between Bridget Chen, contractor, and Meridian Consulting Group Pty Limited, company. The preamble stated that both parties wished to resolve all disputes related to the termination of the consulting agreement dated April 15th, 2022. The first section outlined the background. The contractor was engaged under a written agreement. The company terminated the agreement on October 12th, 2024. The fully executed agreement attached. Payment should arrive within 14 business days. Congratulations on a successful resolution. I opened the attachment. The agreement now had 3 signatures. Mine, Graham Porter's, Patricia Brennan's. It was done. I saved the file to my computer. Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk. The payment arrived 13 business days later. I checked my bank account one morning and saw the deposit. $112,000. Reference: Settlement, Meridian Consulting Group. I stared at the number for a long moment. Then I transferred the money to a savings account. I calculated Catherine's fee. 25% of $112,000. $28,000. I sent her a bank transfer that afternoon. She emailed me a receipt and a final thank you note. "Bridget, thank you for your professionalism throughout this process. You made my job easy by having excellent documentation. I wish you the best in your next chapter. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything in the future. Catherine." I replied, "Thank you for everything. I couldn't have done this without you." Then I opened LinkedIn. I updated my profile. I removed Meridian Consulting from my current position. I moved it to past experience. Under the entry, I wrote, "Independent contractor specializing in supply chain optimization for retail sector clients. April 2022 to October 2024. I did not write anything about why I left. I did not mention the settlement. I simply moved on. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table and thought about what to do next. I had $84,000 in savings after paying Catherine. I had no immediate financial pressure. I could look for another firm to contract with, or I could try working independently. I opened my contact list. I scrolled to Sandra Wilson at Bennett Retail Group. She had said they wanted to work with me on their Q4 project. I composed a message on LinkedIn. "Hi, Sandra. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to follow up on our conversation from a few weeks ago. I'm now available for independent contract work. If Bennett is still interested in discussing the Q4 project, I'd be happy to connect. Let me know if you'd like to schedule a call. Bridget. I sent it. She replied within 2 hours. Bridget, yes, absolutely. We'd love to work with you directly. Are you free for a call tomorrow at 2 p.m.? I'll bring our VP of Supply Chain and our CFO. We want to discuss engaging you outside of Meridian. I replied, tomorrow at 2 p.m. works perfectly. The next day, I joined a video call with Sandra and 2 other executives from Bennett. Sandra introduced everyone. Bridget, you know me. This is James Park, our VP of Supply Chain, and Michael Chen, our CFO. I nodded at both of them. Thanks for taking the time, I said. James spoke first. Bridget, we've been really impressed with the work you did for us over the past 1.5 years. Sandra's told us you're no longer with Meridian. We'd like to engage you directly for our Q4 optimization project. I appreciate that. What does the project entail? Sandra pulled up a presentation. We're doing a comprehensive audit of our supply chain operations. We want to identify inefficiencies, optimize our vendor relationships, and reduce costs by at least 15% over the next fiscal year. What's the timeline? 4 months. November through February. And the scope? James jumped in. Full audit, data analysis, vendor negotiations, implementation support. We want someone who can handle the strategy and execution. Do you have a budget range in mind? Michael, the CFO, spoke. We were paying Meridian $24,000 per month for your services. We're prepared to pay you $26,000 per month for direct engagement. I kept my expression neutral. $26,000 per month was 15% higher than what I had been earning through Meridian. For 4 months, that was $104,000. That's within my range, I said carefully. Excellent, Michael said. We can have a contract drafted by end of week if you're interested. I'm very interested. I'd like to review the contract terms before committing, but this sounds like a strong fit. Of course. We'll send you a draft on Friday. We spent the next 30 minutes discussing the project details. The scope was clear. The timeline was realistic. The expectations were aligned with my expertise. At the end of the call, Sandra smiled. We're really glad you're available, Bridget. We specifically requested you for this project. Meridian tried to assign someone else, but we insisted on working with you. I appreciate the vote of confidence. You've earned it. The call ended. I sat at my desk for a moment. 1 month ago, I had been terminated based on fabricated complaints. Now I had $84,000 in savings and a 4-month contract worth $104,000. I opened my calendar. I blocked out November through February for the Bennett project. Then I started drafting a standard contract template for independent consulting work. The Bennett contract arrived on Friday, as promised. I reviewed it carefully. The terms were straightforward. 4 months, $26,000 per month, paid monthly on completion of deliverables, standard confidentiality and IP clauses. I signed it. I sent it back to Michael at Bennett. He countersigned on Monday. The project officially started on November 1st. I spent the first 2 weeks immersed in Bennett's operations. I reviewed their supply chain data. I interviewed their procurement team. I analyzed their vendor contracts. I worked from home. I set my own hours. I reported directly to James and Sandra. It was quiet, focused, exactly what I needed. At the end of the second week, I delivered my initial findings. I identified 12 areas for optimization. Estimated cost savings, 18% over the next fiscal year. James was thrilled. This is exactly what we needed, Bridget. Great work. The project continued smoothly. In December, I negotiated new terms with 3 of Bennett's major vendors. We secured better pricing and faster delivery schedules. In January, I implemented a new inventory management system. We reduced warehousing costs by 22%. In February, I delivered the final report and transition plan. The project finished on time and under budget. On the last day of February, I had a final call with Sandra. "Bridget, I can't thank you enough. This project exceeded our expectations. The exec team is extremely happy." I'm glad it worked out. I wanted to ask, are you available for ongoing work? We're planning a phase 2 project starting in April, 6 months this time, same rate. I thought about it. Can I get back to you in a few days? I need to check my availability. Of course, no rush. We hung up. I sat at my desk. I had just earned $104,000 over 4 months. Bennett wanted to hire me for another 6 months. That would be $156,000 more. I opened a spreadsheet. I calculated my expenses for the year. Rent, food, utilities, health insurance, business expenses, tax obligations. After everything, I would still have significant savings. I thought about the settlement money from Meridian. $84,000, slowly growing in my savings account. I thought about the work I had done for Bennett. Meaningful, challenging, respected. I thought about what would have happened if I had not called Sandra that first day, if I had not documented everything, if I had not hired Catherine. I would have been terminated. No settlement, no reference letter, no contract with Bennett. But I had done those things, and now I was building something sustainable. I replied to Sandra the next day. I'm available for phase 2. Let's discuss the details. The second contract was signed by mid-March. 6 months, $26,000 per month, $156,000. I blocked out April through September on my calendar. Then I did something unexpected. I reached out to 2 other former clients from my Meridian days. Both were companies I had worked with for over a year. Both responded positively. One offered me a 2-month consulting project. The other wanted quarterly strategic reviews. By the end of March, I had 3 active clients and a pipeline that extended into the next year. My independent practice was growing. I hired an accountant to manage the administrative work. I set up a proper business structure. I created contracts and invoicing systems. I raised my rates to $28,000 per month for new clients. By mid-year, I was earning more than I ever had at Meridian. And I was doing it on my own terms. One evening in June, I received a LinkedIn message. It was from a contractor named Jen, who had worked at Meridian. We had been on the same project team 2 years earlier. "Hey, Bridget. Hope you're doing well. I heard you left Meridian. I'm thinking about leaving too. Would you be open to chatting sometime? No pressure. Just wanted to hear about your experience going independent." I thought about how to respond. The settlement agreement prohibited me from discussing the circumstances of my termination. But it didn't prohibit me from talking about independent consulting in general. I replied, "Hi, Jen. I'd be happy to chat. But I should mention up front that I'm bound by a confidentiality agreement regarding my departure from Meridian. I can talk generally about independent contracting, but I can't discuss specific circumstances of why I left. If that works for you, I'm free next Tuesday afternoon." She replied within the hour. "That's totally fine. I'm more interested in hearing about going independent anyway. Tuesday at 3 p.m.? There's a cafe on Edward Street near the river." "Sounds good. See you then." The following Tuesday, I met Jen at the cafe. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table near the window. She had ordered tea. I ordered coffee and sat down across from her. "Thanks for meeting," she said. "Of course." She stirred her tea slowly. "So, you left Meridian." "I did." "How's it going?" "Really well, actually. I'm working with 3 clients right now, all direct engagements, no middleman." "Better than working through the firm?" "For me, yes. I set my own rates, I choose my projects, I control my schedule." "Do you miss the structure?" "Not really. I have enough structure through client contracts, but I have more flexibility." She nodded. "Can I ask why you left?" I chose my words carefully. "I had a contractual disagreement with the firm. It was resolved through legal channels. I can't get into specifics because of confidentiality agreements, but it led me to realize I'd rather work independently." She looked at me for a moment. "Was it Graham?" I said nothing. "I'll take that as a yes," she said quietly. "He's been difficult to work with. Several people have noticed." I took a sip of coffee. "If you're thinking about leaving, I'd recommend this. Read your contract carefully. Understand the termination clause. Know your rights. Document everything. Emails, deliverables, client feedback. Keep copies of your performance records." "That sounds like you're speaking from experience." "I am." "Did Graham try to terminate you unfairly?" "I can't discuss the details, but I will say that having good documentation made a significant difference in how things were resolved." Jen nodded slowly. "I've been keeping records, just in case." "That's smart." We talked for another 40 minutes. I told her about setting up an independent practice, about finding clients, about managing contracts and invoicing. She asked good questions. She took notes. When we finished our drinks, she stood up. "Thank you, Bridget. This was really helpful." "Anytime. And for what it's worth, I'm glad you got out, whatever happened." "Thank you." She left. I sat at the cafe for a few more minutes, finishing my coffee. I thought about the conversation. Jen was the 3rd person who had mentioned Graham being difficult. I wondered how many other contractors he had tried to remove. I wondered if anyone else had fought back. 2 months later, in August, I received another LinkedIn message. This one was from a contractor named David. "Bridget, not sure if you heard, but Graham Porter is no longer with Meridian. He left last week. Effective immediately. No explanation given. Thought you might want to know." I read the message twice. Then I opened LinkedIn and searched for Graham's profile. His position at Meridian had been removed. His headline now read, "Experienced Consulting Director, Open to New Opportunities." His location was still Brisbane. I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I closed the browser. I did not reply to David's message. I did not reach out to anyone at Meridian. I simply noted the information and moved on. I did not know if my settlement had contributed to Graham's departure. The confidentiality agreement meant I would never know what happened internally after I left. But I knew one thing. The firm had paid me $112,000 to resolve a contract violation. That suggested they had found the violation credible, and credible violations have consequences. I went back to work. Over the next few months, my practice continued to grow. Bennett's Phase 2 project finished in September. They immediately commissioned a Phase 3 for the following quarter. My other 2 clients both extended their contracts. I started getting referrals. Bennett recommended me to a partner company. One of my other clients introduced me to their industry network. By the end of the year, I had 5 active clients and a waiting list. I was earning 40% more than I had at Meridian. I hired a virtual assistant to handle scheduling and administrative tasks. I rented a small office space in the city, though I still worked from home most days. I was building something sustainable. One evening in late November, almost exactly 1 year after my termination, I received a phone call. It was Catherine Mills, the lawyer who had handled my settlement. "Bridget, I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all. What's going on?" "I wanted to give you a heads up. I've been contacted by 3 other former Meridian contractors in the past 6 months. All 3 had very similar situations to yours." I sat up straighter. "Similar how?" "Terminations based on fabricated client complaints. 2 of the 3 were terminated during medical or family leave. All 3 were handled by Graham Porter before he left the firm." "What happened to them?" 2 settled. 1 is still in negotiation. I can't share specific details, but I thought you should know there was a pattern." "Does Meridian know about the pattern?" "They do now. The general counsel is very aware. I suspect that's part of why Graham is no longer there. They realized he was creating legal liability." "How much did the other settlements total?" "I can't share exact numbers, but combined with yours, Meridian has paid significant amounts to resolve these cases." "Thank you for telling me." "You're welcome. And Bridget, your case set an important precedent. You documented everything perfectly. You enforced your contract. That made it easier for the others to do the same." We talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. I sat at my desk, looking out at the Brisbane skyline. The city lights were starting to come on. I thought about the termination letter I had received 1 year ago, the complaints that never existed, the medical leave documentation that proved I couldn't have done what they said I did. I thought about calling Sandra, about hiring Catherine, about the settlement negotiation. I thought about Graham, trying to call me directly, trying to bypass my lawyer, trying to negotiate. He had assumed I was easy to remove, a contractor, not an employee, no union, no protection. But he had forgotten something. Contracts, when violated, have consequences. And I had enforced mine. I stood up from my desk. I walked to the kitchen. I made tea. Tomorrow I had 2 client calls, a project deliverable due on Friday, a proposal to finish by end of week. The work continued. It always did. But now it continued on terms I controlled. I thought about the $84,000 from the settlement, still sitting in my savings account. I thought about the $260,000 I had earned independently over the past year. I thought about the 5 clients who trusted me with their most important supply chain challenges. None of it would have happened if I had accepted the termination quietly, if I had not called the client, if I had not documented the truth, if I had not enforced the contract. I finished my tea. I washed the cup. I turned off the lights. The next morning, I woke up early. I reviewed my project schedule. I had active work with 5 clients, 2 proposals in development, a pipeline that extended 18 months into the future. I opened my email. There was a message from a potential new client, a manufacturing company in Sydney. They had gotten my name from Bennett. They wanted to discuss a 6-month supply chain transformation project. I replied with my availability and my rates. Then I opened the Bennett Phase 3 deliverable and got to work. The morning passed quickly. At noon, I took a break. I made lunch. I sat by the window and looked out at the city. I thought about where I had been a year ago, terminated, angry, uncertain, and where I was now, independent, successful, in control. The path between those 2 points had been simple. Document the truth, enforce the contract, let the system work. I had not yelled. I had not confronted. I had not made threats. I had simply held the firm accountable to the agreement they had signed. And that had been enough. I finished lunch. I went back to work. In the afternoon, I had a call with Sandra at Bennett. "Bridget, quick question. We're planning a major expansion next year. New distribution centers in 3 cities. We want to bring you in as lead consultant for the entire rollout. 12-month engagement. Are you interested? I smiled. Very interested. Send me the details and let's schedule a planning call. Will do. And Bridget, I just want to say, working with you directly has been one of the best decisions we've made. You're worth every dollar. I appreciate that, Sandra. We hung up. I sat at my desk for a moment. A 12-month engagement with Bennett. That would be $312,000 at my current rate. Combined with my other clients, I was looking at close to $500,000 in revenue for the next year. I opened my spreadsheet. I updated my financial projections. Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk. The afternoon sun was warm. The Brisbane River sparkled in the light. I walked along the riverfront thinking. 1 year ago, Graham Porter had tried to remove me from Bennett's account, based on complaints that didn't exist. Now, Bennett was offering me their largest project ever. The irony was not lost on me. But I felt no satisfaction, no sense of revenge, just calm. I had done what the contract required. The firm had paid what the contract demanded. And now I was building what I wanted to build. That was all. I walked back to my apartment as the sun began to set. I made dinner. I worked for another hour. I read for a while before bed. The next day, I woke up and did it all again. Client calls, project work, proposals, administrative tasks. The rhythm was familiar now. This was my life. Independent, professional, sustainable. Built on a foundation of contracts and documentation. Built on the simple principle that words on paper matter. That agreements have weight. That truth, when documented, has power. I had learned that lesson the hard way, but I had learned it completely, and I would never forget it.